Ghana is very innovative. We know how to have conversation at scale. My name is Sam Amano. I'm the founder CEO for Blue Space Financial Cloud. We build financial systems for the banking sector, insurance sector, mobile money sector across Africa. We connect regional blocks. We connect banks and their customers. And we're very honored to be here. Well, I'm honored to be here. The quest to find the best pathway for economic reset is the challenge of almost all African nations. The question has been, we have the resources, we have the policy frameworks, we have everything. So how come the government and the private sector and the public sector are continuously struggling to grow the economies? So these brains here have all the answers, from the public sector experts to the private sector experts, the technology experts, and then the professors. So I'll pass the mic to the senior most, Honorable Tekper, to introduce himself, say a few words, and then I'll pass the baton to the rest of the panelists. And we're going to go deep into what the hack is. I'm a tech guy, so we want to find out what's the hack to unlock growth for Ghana. So, Honorable, over to you, sir.
I'm Tekpe, former Minister for Finance under the first His Excellency Mahama's administration, and now advisor to the President on the economy. And so I'm in the presidency at the moment.
Give him a round of applause. Economic advisor to the current government.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Simon Maji. I'm the acting CEO for the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. Thank you.
Ghana Investment Promotion, Mr. Simon, thank you for coming.
Hello, I'm Darlington Akogo, founder CEO of Mino Health AI Labs, but also the technical lead for Ghana's national AI strategy. Happy to be here.
We can't do without AI. Thank you, Darlington. Mr. Benzo.
My name is Edward Eko Obin Kenzo, the acting chief executive of Volta River Authority.
Volta River Authority. This is the guy that makes your power work. So, Mr. Forte.
My name is Peter Forte. I am an economist and also the director of ISA, one of the leading think tanks in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I am Michael Bozombil, CEO of Petrosol Platinum Energy, a privately owned indigenous oil marketing company that is driven entirely on values. We're a company that believes that we must deliver fuel and energy products to consumers on the basis of value, not just money. And so we run over 100 fuel stations across the country, and we continue to expand to communities as we go along. Thank you.
My name is Estelle Akofio-Soa. I'm C-Squared's West Africa Regional Director. We're a wholesale open access infrastructure provider. And the female representative on the panel.
Hi everyone, my name is Carsten Friedland. I work for SAP for the last 23 years. I'm a product manager. I worked in R&D and product incubation, and my specific focus is in agriculture and more specifically on smallholder farming. And we develop digital tools for this area, and I'm happy to talk about that. Nice meeting you.
Thank you, Carsten.
Hello, my name is George Ankuma. I'm a tax partner with Deloitte Ghana. I lead the tax and regulatory services as a lead partner. Thank you.
Excellent. So we have the tax guy, we have the tech person, and a tech lady, and then a petroleum expert, private sector, and a professor, power generation, AI, investment mobilization expert, and then a policy lord. Let's give him a round of applause. It's going to be quite exciting. I'll start with the lady first. Estelle, you've been in this country, you've done quite a bit of work. We know what you are good at. what you're really, really good at, and I know you have the hack to solve Ghana's growth and its economic reset. What can you say about how technology is impacting this reset that we're faced with?
Yeah, thank you. I think everyone here knows that technology's role cuts across all sectors and is critical to our development. We've already heard it today from Moses was speaking earlier. The president himself touched on the importance of technology. Obviously, we have a huge gap, especially on the infrastructure front. I think across the continent, there's about $170 billion that we need to fund the infrastructure.
170?
$170 billion. And I know we clapped for the CD earlier on, and now it's just times 10, right? It's really easy for us non-mathematical people. So maybe we want it to stay there or we want it to go lower. I mean, that's the gap. And one of the things that I would say is critical is especially around our development partners who have often funded this infrastructure across the continent. I hope they realize now that the best person to give the funding to, or the best entities, are the private sector, right? Obviously working in partnership with governments, and not to continue to give to our governments would be one suggestion that I have for our development partners. Invest in the private sector. That's when, if it's meant to build 100 kilometers of fiber, we will know where the fiber is, we will be able to access it, it will be maintained, and it will be used. Unlike what across the continent, we've seen a lot of digital infrastructure, funding going to governments, and it doesn't get used, it doesn't get maintained, and we have to pay the taxes to pay back the loans.
We heard earlier, MTN invested over $1 billion into digital infrastructure, and you were saying we need more money.
Oh, we need much more
money. But the credit systems in Ghana for private investment is not going too well for us. Maybe Simon, you could help us a bit to understand what's happening in attracting FDI into areas like technology or some of the other infrastructure areas you're focused on.
All right, thank you very much. Naturally, Ghana is a favorable place for many businesses, and so the expectation is that we are going to continue on that trajectory. His Excellency the President did mention that he wants Ghana to become a hub for attracting FDI in the financial and tech sector, but also significantly is the processes that are being put in place to ensure we do that. So one, as many of you are aware, the President did mention, and in his 120-day contract, that he is going to review the Ghana Investment Promotion Law. It's in anticipation to take away some of the issues that investors have complained about. So that's one component of it. The President also mentioned that we are open for business. And in the light of being open for business, we want to ensure that everybody is aware of where the opportunities are. And there are significant opportunities across the country that investors can take advantage of it. We do have a vibrant, Bank of Ghana as a good regulator for those that are in the fintech, and there's also the growing, demand for fintech service across the country. The president, in the run-up to the election, did promise of a 50 million fintech fund to help emerging people in that sector.
We have the money now, or?
Well, my senior colleague in government is here. He can answer to that, but I can reiterate to you the importance of what has been said by His Excellency, and over time I consider that will be done, and so that will be a great addition to what we have. But what's important is that we have a young, vibrant society where people are innovative, and that's what government is encouraging, a lot more innovation. And we also encourage those who have the resources to invest to look our way to come into partnership with Ghanaians to invest across board, be it technology or financial services or manufacturing or even infrastructure on a PPP level.
Have we closed any major deals like what we saw in Qatar and Saudi for Ghana? Have we done a similar kind of deal structures?
Well, major deals take time. There are major interests, but major deals take time. And, Mr. Adade was former chair of GIPC. It takes some time to close some of these deals, to have an agreement and sign it off. But what I can say is there's significant interest in Ghana, and so many investors are interested in investing in Ghana. So what I would say to the Ghanaian businesses is for them to be prepared for the kind of partnership that will be required to do business with those who want to work in Ghana.
Awesome. I'll pass the baton to Mr. Tekbe. A lot of excitement in this new government because there's this feeling there's some fiscal responsibility that is booming or looming, let me say that. Do you feel this is the plan, or is just a way for politicians to just wow us once they come in, then everything will go back to business as normal? Because I've heard on the street, MPP, NDC, they're all the same. Is there any distinct difference in the policy framework to create growth?
I think you can look to the history, because when you talk about fiscal discipline, you will agree with me that going into 2016, we did create a gift list. Gift list simply means that and it's good we're talking electronics here, every government transaction started to be processed, what we call the warrants, electronically. And when you do that electronically, it's easier to control both the sequence and the flows, the quantum. We created a contract database, which for the first time gave us about 95 to 98% sight of contracts awarded by sector ministries, and the rest. We created a treasury single account, which in fact has been repeated and is one of the reasons for the drop in the interest.
That's a new
rates.
Policy activation?
I'm saying that it's a reenactment of a policy that, was stopped, just like the sinking fund, His Excellency mentioned, was stopped and led to. So I must say that Ghana has become a lower middle income country on the back of a growing services sector, on the back of oil in particular. We catapulted 5 years ahead, right? 2010. We were supposed to be a middle income country, either 2020, those who remember Vision 2020, or 2015.
Has that materialized though?
The point I want to make more importantly is that if we manage to bring in the ENI salaries back, if we get, and we have 3 oil fields, if we get 4, 5, 6 oil fields, Ghana will become an upper middle income country.
So
and
in the
that
next
is where
2 years, give us some timelines when this could be realized.
Well, it could be faster. That's the point I'm making. It depends on how fast you move. And His Excellency has said the discussions and whatever himself to get them back. But the point is, as he mentioned, since the development of the domestic bond market, which was on the Bank of Ghana, was put to the stock exchange, he mentioned, we were able to do a $200 million US denominated bond, right, to target self-financing projects that can finance them itself.
You're saying we could actually raise the money domestically?
I am saying that had we not defaulted, had we made, because the issue is sustainability of policies, had we made these policies to be sustained, 500 million for fintech, which sector can pay back the loan? Government can go for the money, give it, but the entrepreneurs.
I want to double click on this,
right?
Because you're saying if these policies are sustained, is there a framework to continue displacing the policies of the other party and the new party? Is there a stability framework we could put in place so that good policies that are voted in parliament doesn't get displaced in the future governments that are coming in? Because then the private sector is going to suffer.
At the risk of repeating what His Excellency, said, when we set up the sinking fund, the first debt that we started paying down was not debt that we took. It was the first sovereign bond because it was interest only. And we set it up, frankly, in 2014, 2015, the sinking fund by capping the stabilization fund, because within 3 years, 2017, had we won, we would have looked for 750 million. Know that you are likely to have defaulted. We managed to pay 300 million. We refinanced 200 million, making 550 million, 350 million, and left 200 million, which was used on due date, October 4th, right, to pay off the balance. Can you imagine, therefore, that if you had continued, right? And the sinking fund was projected, over a period of 15 years to pay down the debt that we took. You can go to the market and buy back, which is what we did. So I'm saying that
if we sustain that, right?
If
So
we
let's
sustain
give him
the
a round of
policies,
applause, because this is
yes.
very difficult to do in the political sector, to maintain policies and all of that. Let's go back to power, right? Estelle mentioned technology cuts across all sectors. I also believe power cuts across all sectors. And there's a third pillar, which is AI, which is also going to cut across all sectors. So I'll go to Mr. Benzo. You're a big boss. You're in the middle of this big chair. How is the future power requirements? First of all, do we have excess power in Ghana to sustain the private sector and the industrialization that started in the previous government? Do we have enough power to power the next 4 or 5 years of development aspirations, agro-processing and all these other economic areas that the government is focusing on?
Thank you. There are two folds of answer to the question you've asked me. As we sit, I'll say we have enough power. Come the end of this year, next year, we'll be exhausting the installed capacity we have as a nation. So if you say that we are resetting the economy of this country, then I would say that we need a very secure energy supply. As a country, if we don't really take bold decisions to improve the infrastructure of energy in this country, then all the objectives, goals that we are looking at, we cannot achieve. Because energy is the enabler for economic growth, and it should also be affordable, it should be sustainable to allow the economy to grow. So if we are not having this strategy in place and taking these bold decisions to improve the energy base of this country, then I tell you, come.
How much power do we need? Do you have any ideas? Rough figures.
With the group that we are looking at about 200 megawatt, 300 megawatt every year, in addition to the energy that is needed. We all say that we want to go into the data mining, and for the data mining alone, we need about 50% of the installed energy at the moment to make sure the data is reliable for it to be used. So I would say that there should be an ambition of moving to almost 10,000 megawatt of installed generation. And as we sit, we have about 5,000 plus, which we need about
so by next year, we have to be moving into some drastic investments to grow these capacity requirements.
Yes, by next year, we cannot get next year at least minimum for financial closure, getting everything in place, you need a minimum of 3 years. So come 2028, I believe we should get about 1,000 megawatt installed capacity to take our installed generation to about 6,000 megawatt to allow us to achieve the economic reset that we are looking at. If not, I tell you, it will be very difficult. And
so is this some form of warning for the ecosystem? Because this is very serious, right? We only have 2 years left, basically, to meet these capacity gaps. I would like to shift to Darlington, once you finish, to look at how much AI is going to drain, or this upcoming data center is going to drain on these power requirements. Because AI is also going to be very, very paramount to everything we're doing. Is this a warning?
Yes, it is a warning. The energy planning of the state should be taken very seriously. Just coming from a trip and an industry, a single industry of a country's installed capacity is twice what we have as a country. Now you can see that we are joking. A smelter in Dubai is about 6,000 megawatts installed capacity. And that's only the A part of the smelter. If you add the B part, it's almost 10,000 megawatts installed capacity for a smelter. And if you take a state and install capacity, it's only 5,000. You can see that we are not really pushing the agenda to grow this economy. And energy is very, very critical. It's the enabler for it. Without energy, I tell you, we should forget about whatever we are talking about. And it should be affordable. And being affordable, which means that the government has to create that enable environment to have those affordable energy, to allow the industries to come in to invest and also to grow the economy. Without that, then I tell you, they also go look for countries where the energy is a bit affordable for them to invest and grow the economy. So the key word, it should be affordable, it should be sustainable. So I think the state should take that bold decision and drive that agenda. So that is what I would like to.
Thank you so much, Mr. Benzo. Darlington, how does this connect to what you're working on? And then the overall AI strategy, I think it's great that Honorable Sam George and team have put this strategic focus on AI to make sure that Ghana becomes a hub. I was just in Dubai last 2 weeks, and they are moving ahead. You saw what Trump is doing as well. South Africa, Nigeria, they're all moving very aggressively. So if we don't have money and we don't have power, how are we going to be part of this AI boom?
So I'll be a bit provocative and say what we need to do is prioritize AI over the usual commodities that we usually prioritize. So I'm talking about literally putting AI over gold, oil, and cocoa, right? The reason why I'm saying this, so whilst we're working on the national AI strategy, serving as a technical lead, I decided to become an economist over the weekend. So I looked at the numbers, right? The projection by the likes of PwC is that serious countries that are seriously leveraging AI would be able to grow their GDP by up to 26% in the year 2030. If you do the calculation in Ghana, what that means is that we can add $20 billion to our GDP by 2030. If you look at how much we currently get from gold, oil, and cocoa, the highest being gold, which gave us about 7 billion. The rest is about $1 billion. So if you're looking at it purely from a number point of view, none of these sectors are going to give us the returns we would potentially get in AI. And so from an economic analysis point of view, for lack of better words, it makes no sense why we shouldn't prioritize AI over all these other industries. And prioritizing it means we need to do a number of things. We need to invest in AI. So one of the things we are looking at is the creation of an AI fund. You should be spending at least, say, $1 billion, a 5-year fund that is investing in growing capacity, investing more in energy, making sure we're able to accumulate the data we need, and invest in the startup ecosystem. So if you growing the global economy, growing any economy requires you to have tech startups that are scaling up. That is where the world is, right? You mentioned Trump. They are now spending $500 billion to build just the compute needed to train AI systems. That is where everyone's focus is. So we prioritizing oil, gold, cocoa, and everything is fine, but it needs to come way below AI, purely from a numbers perspective.
I'm happy you said this and not me, because I would have been, slammed. But I agree with you.
Just one last point on that. So it's not just bringing financial returns to the country. I run Mino Health AI Labs. With our generative AI platform, Moremi, we're able to generate medical reports in 5 seconds for things like X-ray, mammograms. If you've ever been to the hospitals, things like this take you days to weeks, especially in our public sector. We could be saving lives. So we are talking about something that could save lives, boost our economy, help every single industry. We are talking about growing productivity. We are talking about something that if we leverage it, we essentially solve our economic issues. And the technology is ready. It's matured. I don't see why we are not prioritizing it.
So I'll double click on that again, because AI is intangible, right? You need the infrastructure layer to build these data centers. We checked, we have partnerships who have built massive data centers in Ghana. AWS just launched, or Google just launched in South Africa, right? Ghana doesn't have the numbers. What kind of investment are you looking at for Ghana specifically? Because gold is giving us reserves. It's also shoring up the FX. So what kind of investment are you talking about? Because it's an intangible. Productivity is a bit intangible. If you look at how long we're wasting to get things done in Ghana, and we cost it and make a business case, then maybe there's a case to be made for AI to be prioritized above gold. So what kind of investment, tier are we talking about?
So the idea now is let's create a national AI fund, right? And put in about $1 billion, a 5-year fund. Then you also look at the foreign direct investment, you look at bringing on board the private sector, and then try to bring in about, say, $5 to $10 billion in that regards. For the returns we get on these numbers, as an example, OpenAI spent $100 million training GPT-4, which I'm sure most of us in this room use. In the year, I think that was last year, they made $1.6 billion in revenue from spending $100 million. That's a 16x return, right? So if you are spending $1 billion, if we create a national fund that has $1 billion in it, and we are strategically investing it in the startups in our ecosystem, right? It's quite expensive compared to, traditional, let's even say in the tech startup, right? You can have a startup that you can write them a $100,000 pre-seed check. In generative AI, it doesn't work that way. You have to spend more, but the returns are enormous. So if we are putting in $1 billion, we could be seeing 16x return, essentially in a matter of months, not even years. That is what is happening in AI. What you want to do is ensure that you have what we call frontier model labs. These are your OpenAI, or as you've seen with China, DeepSeek and the rest. You want to make sure that we have some of them being created in Ghana. Give them the right funding, give them the right compute, give them the right energy access. And even with energy access, what is happening right now is that people are talking in gigawatts. Just to power the compute, we need to run AI models, right?
Stargate, right?
The Stargate initiative, I believe, is somewhere between 1 and 5 gigawatts that they are looking at. And there is a lot of protectionism that is happening between US and China right now because of AI, because of that DeepSeek movement, which they are calling they're equating it to when the Soviet Union was able to go put a man in space before the US. So there's clearly a fight for the global economy. There's about to be a reset of the global economy. Just as much as you use AI to do everything, we are creating agentic AI that will automate entire workloads. And so imagine a scenario where we don't create any of those AI systems and all of that sits in the US. We're still going to be consumers. So we're going to keep pushing basically all our economy over to the US or China. Do we want that scenario? Would we want a scenario where we actually producing the AI system? And even though I said a lot about oil, cocoa and everything, if we are creating AI system, we can have this AI system boost those same economies, boost those same sectors, because that's what AI does.
I'm gonna cut you short because this conversation could go on for 2 years because I love the subject. Kirsten, what are you seeing the private sector adopting tools to create productivity gains? Is AI becoming the thing they're all calling you for? In agriculture, maybe, perhaps. The government wants to boost agriculture. We have to make food for ourselves. We don't have to import. I heard somewhere we're blocking all imports of foods that we make in Ghana. Is AI and technology being adopted in your market for private sector actors that you're dealing with?
I mean, it is really about, from a SAP perspective, it's really about business AI, linking, bringing together basically the learnings from billions of transactions to help support your current business decision, right? But that sounds so theoretical, and in the end, it starts with small things, right? I'm coming from an agricultural perspective, right? And just have a look what agriculture means here in Ghana, right? So I had a look at 20% of GDP. That's impressive already. But it's 40% of exports. And it involves 50% of the workforce. So it evidently raises the question, what can we do with digital tools, be it traditional ones, be it more advanced ones? And I really see opportunity currently. If you observe the trends currently, we are talking about international value chains, right? Somebody sipping a very expensive cup of coffee in Chicago or in London is actually consuming something which was produced by someone at the other side of the world. And there's a potential there because consumers are willing to spend more, right? They spend more for a traceable produce, for a sustainable produce. And also we have more and more regulation coming up to find out, okay, so when this coffee was produced, was there some child labor? Was there some deforestation happening? So while at the same time this is the new technologies are bringing pressure, they are also an opportunity. And we really see that with very easy tools like machine learning, face recognition of when we are registering millions of smallholders in our systems, right? There is a possibility, and we've proven it. We have the tools, we've built the tools. There is a possibility to provide such transparency, to provide such traceability, which in the end means, Ghana can be part of that international value chain. A smallholder farmer who is below the poverty line, who will now get more income through that certification that comes with these digital tools. So I think that's a very practical example of how you can, use these tools. Of course, AI can also be used in this context. A smallholder, somebody sourcing from smallholders with maybe 30,000 smallholders. For them, it's really a question of predictability. And weather patterns have a huge impact on the exact moment of harvest. That is not a difficult task to solve by AI. It can be used, and it can have a direct impact on smallholders, on their income, and on the Ghana economy as a whole. So that's where I see making things from a very theoretical discussion, from a very tech discussion, making it practical, and it's just about reaching and reaping these opportunities, I guess.
So agriculture can impact the livelihood of farmers when done correctly, basically is what you're saying. We should export more than importing more, pretty much, right? George, you are a regulator expert, regulatory expert, tax expert. What kind of reforms are we putting together to create this reset in your practice or that you've heard of that can help the private sector feel a bit more confident? Because from some of the conversations I'm having, this is like business as usual. Are there any changes happening regulatory-wise?
Within the system that we are, I would say that there's the need for us to ensure that there is consistency in the approach that we adopt in terms of issues around taxation or generating revenue. Revenue generation is key, and I think a lot has been said around AI and how AI can enhance whatever we do. We cannot run away from AI. AI is the way to go, and that is what we need to even adapt in terms of business that we run, from government perspective, how we can generate revenue, and for all sectors that we run, we need to look at how do we enhance or how do we use some of these AI technologies to enhance. For instance, I will be specific here. We are in a country where, when it comes to revenue generation, we are doing so well, but one will also say that there are also significant gaps. Significant gaps in the sense that, for instance, we know this an economy driven largely by a small-scale sector. Now, how are we making so much revenue from the small-scale sector? We are not doing much. Why? Because we are not adapting technology or AI in terms of bringing in these sector or SMEs on board. And that is one of the areas that we need to invest. And so investment, so much is being talked about investment, is very key. If you look at the Revenue Authority tax collection
model, are there any real practical policies being created to create the change for the reset in the taxation regulatory framework of taxes?
Yes. So I think already something is on board that the government is doing with the GRA. We talk of the ITAS that the President mentioned earlier is ongoing, which is to use to ensure that the revenue mobilization policies or mechanism is enhanced. But there's more to do, and the more to do is to ensure that taxes, areas that we are not getting much from, how do we generate revenues from them? We've talked about also issues around exemptions over the period that we are not getting much from. Exemptions have been a big issue that has taken so much in terms of tax revenue from us.
Zero taxation on all AI projects, right?
Sorry?
Zero taxation on all AI projects, maybe?
Not necessarily zero forever, but then you want to attract investment into the sector to be able to allow us to use the platform. And so, how do we attract investment? You create incentives for a period that if we can invest, for instance, so much for a given number of years, these are the incentives that are available for you. So business sector will look at what is available, how do we want to take advantage of this, and then be able to decide and invest there. But because at the end of the day, the private sector or the business sector is the engine for growth, but they need the enabling environment. So we are looking at policies that will give the business sector some level of comfort or some level of certainty over a period that should I go into this sector because this is the direction of, the global economy, this is where we are going. So I should not enter a sector where the next year or next 2 years policies are changed and my investment, there's uncertainty around how much I've invested and all that, because investors want to be certain in terms of how much they are investing. So there's the need for so much to be invested if we really want to grow.
Policy has to be dynamic, right? Because the geopolitical situation keeps changing,
Correct.
Macros are changing. I think, Prof, you are the expert on this. We're resetting. We talked about infrastructure, dependency, infrastructure in tech, infrastructure in power, policy consistency, AI. What new things do you feel government should look at that maybe it's on their blind spot? Because we're being pressured on the CD, we're being pressured on some other things. What should they be looking at that maybe that has become a blind spot to them at this moment for the reset?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think I like the idea about the reset, trying to reset the economy, but it shouldn't just be a slogan. We have to be intentional. We have to set targets. So I will talk about fiscal reset, for instance. It aligns very much with the AI, with the technology, the need to raise revenue. Oftentimes, in fact, for the past 2 or so decades, we've been running budget deficit. I want
Did you say 2 decades?
Sorry?
2 decades?
Yeah, for the past 2 decades or more, budget deficits. I want to see us move into a surplus. It is when you have a surplus that you can invest. You invest in technology, you invest in other public sectors. And also in investing, we need efficiency in our investment. We did a study trying to, using the data involvement technology, to look at efficiency of investment in 41 African countries within the health sector. Ghana ranked 26. Yes, and what was clear was that out of, let's say, 100 cities of public investment, 39% was wasted. So we are inefficient in terms of our public investment. That, for me, is an area where we can drive technology, we can use AI to promote efficiency in our investments.
So that's a blind spot right now that we can tap into.
Sorry?
That's a blind spot we can tap into.
For me, that's a blind spot, yes. Efficiency of investment. Honorable Tekwe spoke about the need to borrow wisely, have thresholds, have a sinking fund. That is brilliant. But if whatever we borrow, we don't invest or use them efficiently, then basically we'll be throwing money away. So that, I think we should leverage on technology and then promote efficiency of investment. I want to, once we have a lot of private businessmen here, CEOs, I want to tie with this idea of reset. I think we need a mindset reset, because it's not just about resetting sectors, a mindset reset. Because for business people, you need some kinds of workers. You need workers whose mindset is to drive efficiency. In the public sector, you need mindset to drive efficiency. It's not just about resetting for reset's sake. And I think my point about setting clear targets that we monitor annually. So if you are resetting our fiscal, we're gradually reducing our deficit, but we should aim at a point where we'll get a budget surplus. Then to our real sector, we have been exporting commodities in this raw form for quite some time. Agric is basically less irrigation. About 5% of our agricultural lands are irrigated, less than 5%. As we reset, leveraging onto AI technology in agriculture, we should be doing more in that respect. So for me, these are the areas I think we should be targeting.
Wow, let's give him a round of applause. I think that's very, very strategic. So instead of looking for new money, we can be efficient and save money to improve in AI and power generation and some of these other areas. Michael, I think you're a private sector guy. You're running a very good business. You have a lot of money. How is talent affecting your reset or transformative growth as a private sector, enterprise? What are you seeing? Obviously, the dollar is a concern. Talent is a concern. Is technology a concern? What are some of the things you're seeing from a private sector perspective for these reset?
Thank you very much, Sam. If you permit me, let me say something briefly about the energy, aspect. Because I work in the energy space, and I'm very passionate about energy. And from where I sit, and I have to be very frontal, I think if we want to grow as a nation sustainably in the manner that we expect to grow, we must fix our energy sector. And to do that, and Honorable Setepe, I wish the President were here, but I believe you conveyed the message to him. Government has to take its hands off the energy sector, because governments over the years have proven to be very inefficient and have burdened the consumer more than they have always thought they would do to reduce the burden of the consumer. Having seen how things have panned out over the years, we should deregulate the power sector and allow government to stay off and allow the pricing of power to be done like the way it is done in the petroleum sector. I say this because we are talking about a futuristic economy, sustainable economy, and it's anchored on energy. We are talking about AI. It's not going to be done without sustainable power. We've seen this over the years. Governments will come in to say this, they will sort out the energy sector. They don't have what it takes to do it. In the petroleum sector, if you recall, several years ago, we used to have shortages, queues. Some of us pushed through advocacy for deregulation. You don't see the queues again because of, the fact that now the private sector is in charge. In the telecom sector, we used to have issues getting, just SIM card. It had to take deregulation. Government used to say, national security, if you allow the private sector to come in, they were causing more problems for the citizens than what the private sector would do. When we deregulated the telecom sector, we made it even cheaper for the consumer. The village woman now can have a phone, can have access to data, internet. This is where we must go in our power sector. If we don't take a bold decision and allow the private sector to take charge and keep thinking government can fix it, we will meet here in 10 years' time and the economy will be back to where we are. So having said that, I'll come back to your question if you permit.
Yes, we're running out of time,
right.
But if you could be really quick,
okay.
That would be very helpful.
Thank you very much. Yes, so when it comes to the expertise, skills, I must say that we have great talent in Ghana. To be honest with you, Petrosol, we have grown, developed, and reached this stage as a result of excellent indigenous talent. It is the environment. If you create the right environment, you will see excellent performance. It's these same people who travel out of this country and excel. So we have created a right environment. We make sure that there are rules, systems, structures, not personal interference. We make sure that we subject our operations to international scrutiny. So we are triple ISO certified for quality management system, for environmental management system, for occupational health and safety management system. We allow governance systems to work. The CEO reports to an active board that holds the CEO accountable. That is how we allow institutions to work. And you attract the right talent and they will excel. So I don't see any problem. And let me commend our team, particularly the female team. It will amaze you, the kind of great work that the women are doing in Petrosol. And we have invested in the Petrosol Women Network, building their capacity, and they are excelling. You travel across the country, rural communities, and you see young ladies working seriously with passion and with commitment.
I see them. They don't go to sleep. 24 hours, right? Are you part of the 24-hour economy already? Exactly. Excellent. Let's give him another round of applause. I think that's fantastic. So governance is key, and setting up standards for talent to work and operate in. We have just a few minutes left. I think, Estelle, you're itching to say some really powerful things. I'll go back to Honorable Setekpe to share the way forward that you see for the next few years, that this reset agenda will not just be words, but it will be a testament for this government. What are some of the new things, the way forward for us, private sector guys, to have some assurance?
Okay, let me quickly re-echo His Excellency when he went backwards and he said a reset is not necessarily something for the future. A reset is resetting initiatives, that were launched. And when you say, 20 years, it's actually 30 years. I started my career with ERP SAP, and many of the things we are talking today were very much in vogue, energy and etc. during Dr. Buchi's time as Minister for Finance when I joined the Ministry of Finance. And so again, it's about sustaining. What we call GIFMIS today was started as Proof Map, and then the late Salome who was then having the oversight. Now, so let me just use the fiscal. There was a point that was to illustrate. Now, from the days of GCNet all the way through where we are today as Sekuda and all those who understand the language, there's some involvement that is taking place. Now, we do have a custom system which works, fairly well. The ICOMS, which used to be West Blue. What is missing in that link, the revenue, is the ITAS, as has been mentioned, the domestic tax system. This was to follow the ICOMS. And you see, the excitement about, I'm using as an illustration of where we need to go. The excitement about AI, apps, and the rest. One example I often give, we have an app on VAT invoices, domestic VAT invoices. You may evolve an AI to check and do everything. Now, first of all, the VAT invoice, that is not called a VAT invoice. It's actually the customs entry. Because when you import goods, you pay import VAT. So for compliance, for administration, and to check whether what GR is doing well, right? That information sitting in ICOMS need to be downloaded, old-fashioned, into the domestic tax system. There's a breakage there. So the app on VAT invoices and the rest is sitting on a private database, the vendor, right? Because it has no link to a domestic tax system.
So you're saying the
so
reset?
I'm saying that the public sector is lagging behind some of the optimism that is being expressed here. And this is why His Excellency has emphasized that the ITAS must come to bridge the link, right? Similarly with, I don't want to bore you with expenditure. We now have the warrants and others, all of it. What is missing, which is evidence in the large accumulation of arrears, which we are now auditing, is an arrears, a creditor, ledger, debit creditor.
So the way forward, what one or two things you want to share with the private sector?
So as the ITAS is going to be introduced as one element of improving the fiscal, because our problem is fiscal, right? The interface between customs and the domestic tax system will therefore be complete. Similarly with and I'm focusing on fiscal here, similarly with the various components and subsystems, the HRMI system, the payroll, which analyzes the payroll system, and all that needs to be completed for the GIFMIs to be effective.
So to the private sector, we're going to be generating more revenue if these transformations are done.
So it's only when you have done this that you can leapfrog and begin to have a very solid, debt system and others, which links to your domestic, financial markets, so that you are not going to be defaulting again. Exactly. It's all integrated.
So you're saying we're fixing, the reset is to fix the foundation of revenue generation, so we don't lag behind.
Right, basically. And it's going to be applied in other sectors, value addition and others, which,
Awesome. Let's give Honorable a round of applause. We're almost done, and I see my colleague getting closer to my chair, so I know exactly what that means. I'll start from that side. Just a few last comments. You have 20 seconds. Just the way forward for your tax regulatory area and what things are coming on your side. And then, Karsten, you can also do the same, and we'll follow suit.
Right. So I'm happy the minister has mentioned the ITAS, as I did mention earlier. And so, way forward, the government, or in other words, the GRA also introduced what is called e-invoicing, where we are using electronic invoicing for everybody. They started this process. It was super. Within the few couple of months that this was started, if you see the revenue, and that is part of why our revenue generation started going up. It looks to me there is a bit of relaxation, or they've relaxed a bit. I think it's very important that we all go digital, or we use technology to enhance our revenue collection.
To adopt digital as a way forward.
They should continue with that, because we all travel out and we don't go anywhere to buy something and then you go for manual invoice, somebody being writing and making mistakes. The systems are there. Let's deploy the systems. Let's use it for our revenue generation.
Awesome.
I think that we'll get there.
Awesome. Karsten, what's the way forward?
I also think digitization is a task that is crossing all areas. Let's use the opportunities that are out there. Of course, it is an invest, but it's an invest, that makes a difference. And I think the way forward is pretty clear. We just need to take those next steps.
Execute. Digital. Let's go for it. Estelle?
I'm the eternal optimist, and I think we are in a good place where we have a president that has been here before, so hopefully he's learned some lessons. And I believe unless there's some major constitution changes, he only has 4 years, so hopefully he's going to move very quickly. I hope that is correct, and I have not got my years wrong. But I think we need to hold our government accountable. And we, as the middle and upper class of Ghana, I think, and I'm to blame, we're often sort of comfortable in our homes with generators. We are able to go to private hospitals. We're able to travel, etc. But we just need to hold our government accountable.
Accountability is your way forward, right?
Because we heard it. Did you say 76% wastage? Of the majority of funds. And we see it in the uncompleted
So we have to hold the government accountable
we have to hold
in this new reset. Thank you very much.
And we have to be active citizens ourselves.
Lovely. Thank you. Michael?
Yeah, in conclusion, we are ready to work with government as private sector actors. We are very happy with the initial signals. Very great. What we want is to work together in a sustained manner. The good news is that the Ghanaian private sector is ready to work, we will raise the funding. We just need the right environment. And we have demonstrated it. And we believe that this can be done if we work together. Thank you.
Awesome. Prof.
Yes, I think still back to my point about driving efficiency within the public sector. Public spending has to be efficient.
The new Doge, right?
Yes, leveraging on technology. And then lastly, as we also raise revenue, leveraging on technology again, the low-hanging fruits are there, property rates and other areas where we can raise revenue. We should, however, avoid harassing businesses. Because sometimes when we say we want to increase revenue, then we deploy workers to harass businesses. I don't think that's the way to go. Let's leverage on technology. Thank you.
Be efficient. So the way forward is to be efficient. Big boss.
Thank you. I think the public utilities are supposed to be made financially sustainable. By so doing, then these public entities will be very innovative, going out to raise funds to improve their operations. By so doing, also, it brings in more competition into the space. And also by so doing, we said, okay, now the public sector can be the anchor, the base for the growth of the economy that we are looking at. If not, then I'll tell you that that level, that anchor for growth of the economy will not be there. And I'm not sure we can easily grow the economy without that public sector base holding and promoting that growth of the economy.
Public sector is still the foundation for growth.
And it should be very efficient in how they operate. With VI, we think we are chevering that course where we enable private sectors to participate in our energy infrastructure program. That's where we are.
Thank you, Mr. Kenzo. Darlington, what's the way for 2 lines, right? Straightforward, 2 lines.
2 sentences.
Yeah.
Okay, so general purpose AI, an AI system that can do anything a professional can do, is projected to be created in 2028. We have 2 years to solidify our place in the AI ecosystem. We can unlock $20 billion into our GDP by 2030 if we create a national AI fund and both in private and public sector aggressively adopt AI to cut down costs, improve productivity, and then increase revenue.
Thank you. Simon?
All right, thank you. Mine will be very simple. An all-government approach towards driving investment is key for all of us. Investment that will open up the country and to ensure that we get a lot of reinvestment from existing investors. Now, I only hold a slight contrary view to that from my friend from GRA who says the country hasn't benefited from incentives and exemptions. We need to look at that again. We have benefited from it from employment. We have benefited from it from transfer of skills and technology. And we welcome more investment into this country, especially from our African brothers and sisters. So we look forward to opening up the country with existing investors. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for bearing with us and listening. I think you guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Honorable Setekpe, Simon, Darlington, Mr. Kenzo, Prof, Michael, Estelle, Karsten. Thank you so much. And George.